We're in the middle of the Maimah Vayishlach Yehoshua, Tavshin Lamed Vav, and holding by Ois Dalid. V'yeshloimar dezesh et tzivila harik shiva amamim v'lich b'shes artzam hu nitzri b'cholder. And this command to kill all the seven nations and to conquer the land of Eretz Canaan, this is nitzri b'cholder. This is something which is eternal. Now, this is a very interesting language. We say it's nitzri because where are those seven nations today? So if we go down to Ha'ara 17. Sefer mitzvahs l'Rambam. Mitzvahs say kuf pezayin. And this is irrelevant every day. The Rambam lists it as a mitzvah, as one of the Taryag mitzvahs. Now he has klolim in these mitzvahs. The klolim are that only the mitzvahs that he lists as the 613 have to be relevant and active in every generation. There's many more commands in the Torah than 613. And he has a list of 14 requirements that would say which action that Hashem requires from us is included in the 613. And there are different opinions about this. Also, the Ramban has a sefer, the Chinuch has a sefer on the Targum mitzvahs. So not everyone agrees completely on what are these 613. Everyone agrees there's 613. But what are they in particular? So one of the klolim of the Rambam, and then the general rule that says what's included is something that has to be relevant for all generations. For example, the mon. There was mitzvahs that Hashem said by the mon that you couldn't collect it on Shabbos. That is not included in the 613. It was a command. Hashem said to do it, and it was relevant only to the generation that had the mon. So it's not relevant to us. So it's not part of the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah. So what the Rambam does include is these. So it's very interesting. How can you include it? Especially nowadays, since all the nations are mixed up. There was Sancheriv who, when he was ruling the world, he mixed up all the nations. So we don't know who's who necessarily. So back in the Ha'ara, Shahem Noigis L'Doiris. These are all Noig the Doiris, the 613, and from Sefer Mitzvahs L'Harambam Shirish Gimel. And that's where he says the Shirish Gimel, meaning the general rule, number 3, is that it has to be relevant for all generations. So it's a very interesting look. Now let's go down. If you notice, there's a star under the line with a half a parenthesis. So there he says, "B'sefer mitzvah shom mitzvah sasei kuf peizayin." That's where he mentions mitzvah 187. Kuf peizayin is this mitzvah, positive mitzvah. Shezet shetziv laharik shiva monim nimna b'taryig mitzvahs. And this that the Rambam counts, the mitzvah to kill the seven nations, is part of the Taryag mitzvahs. Because it's relevant in every generation where it's possible it's possible to do this. So if you would know today who is one of the seven nations, you have to, it's a mitzvah to kill them. Now, it's possible. We don't know who they are. They're all mixed up, but it doesn't take away from the category and this would apply today. So that's why he counts it as a mitzvah, and one of the Taryag mitzvahs. However, as here we're going into a deeper look. Everything in Torah has 2 layers. There's the guf and the neshama. So that's the guf, that's the nigla, that's the revealed part. The inner piece of the Torah, the neshama of the Torah, the nister of Torah, the pnimis of Torah, which Chassidus brings out is what we're dealing with too. So b'pnimius hanyonim yishlema, when you're going to the pnimius inyonim, the inner message of what is this mitzvah doing, which Moshe Rabbeinu sent on his own accord to inspire the land, but Hashem had said you've got to destroy the nations. So that mitzvah is in place. Is a shekol tari mitzvahs noygus l'doros el shezeh baruchnis, that all the tari mitzvahs also exist for all generations, but that piece which is eternal is in ruchnis. Sometimes you're able to actually implement it, and if it would be possible to find and to implement the practical application of killing one of the seven nations, it's still an active mitzvah. However, in ruchnis, the spiritual dynamics of what this mitzvah means, represents, and is focused on, that is for all generations. And so that's what we're talking about in this mimer. So we're toggling between the mitzvah as it is simple and the mitzvah as it is in the spiritual sense. And so it's active today. And we want to illuminate this, to point out from the Igeros HaKodesh of the Alter Rebbe, in Tanya, Simon Chovtes, and Bekama Komis, and many other places in Chassidus, Shekol Adam Yisrael Tzarech Lekaim Kol Tarieg Mitzvahs. Every Yid has to fulfill all 613 mitzvahs. The neshama, it's a fundamental principle that the neshama comes down into our world. We're alive as Yidden. The purpose is to refine the body, the nefesh habamis, and the part of the world in which we come in contact. It's not because the neshama needs a fix. The neshama is perfect. And in order to fulfill the mission, it has to do the 613 mitzvahs. That's how we bring godliness into the world. Just by thinking about a mitzvah, thinking about saying the Shema. Without saying the Shema, did nothing. Thinking about putting on tefillin. Without putting on tefillin, it's nothing. Having a feeling of wanting to get close to Hashem, that's Avos Hashem. However, if it doesn't translate into doing, so then it has no effect. The reason for the neshama coming down into the body, why we're here is in order to live a life of Torah mitzvahs. Hayom lasosom. So we've got to fulfill, and therefore each neshama has to fulfill all Tariag mitzvahs. So you may ask, well, we can't do all of them because we don't have a base of mikdash. So a lot of the mitzvahs we cannot do today. And some mitzvahs, so what's the answer? So even in the times of the base of Mikdash, where we had a Melech and there was a Kohen Gadol, there are some mitzvahs that the Kohen Gadol did or the Melech did, that through them we were yotze that mitzvah, because they were neshama klolis. And neshama klolis is a neshama that includes within it many, many other neshamas. And so those mitzvahs that they did uplifted and implanted within the other neshamas that connection. We're talking about a mitzvah is not just it is the doing. However, within that, it's the Ratzon Hashem. It's Hashem's will. So as we do the mitzvah, we schlep into ourselves, into the world, into all the worlds, a revelation of the infinite will of Hashem. It's an active process. Because of the physicality of the body, we don't feel it. But the malachim feel it, tzaddikim can feel it, and so it's an active process. It's not just we're here on planet Earth and Hashem's somewhere in some spiritual place or imaginary place that we don't know where it is, and there's no connection except we're doing what He says. It's not the case. We're actively connected to the godly, to the Ein Sof, to Hashem. So we do a mitzvah, we bring it down. So a tzaddik, a kohen gadol, a melech, that does a mitzvah, brings down this energy and affects all the neshamas. So there's some mitzvahs which is affected. It's called neshamas klolim. They include within them other neshamas. In every generation you have that. That's Alter Rebbe speaks about in Perek Beis of Tanya. So you'll have that in it. Also, that we have many mitzvahs that we've done before. There are mitzvahs that in other words, our neshamas have been down in this world before. as a Gilgal. And there, it's unusual to have a new neshama that has never been down in the world before. The Alter Rebbe was such a neshama. His neshama had never come down in the world before. The Baal Shem Tov knew it was coming down. And 3 years before he was born, there was already a tumult in the heavenly worlds. There's a new neshama coming down. Takes a lot of preparation. But most of our neshamas have been here before. It's called a Gilgal. We are a reincarnation. Why we reincarnated? Not because we had to fix, but because there's a mission that we have to accomplish that's unique to our generation, to our time, to our body and our place. Let's say you were in the neshama that came down at the times of the base of Mikdash. You lived in Eretz Yisrael. You had cows, sheep, donkeys, fields. And so when you brought a korban, you were elevating and bringing godliness into that particular piece. If you happen to end up from now living in America, it was impossible to accomplish that refinement of the world we live in today then. It wasn't discovered. You didn't have America, and you didn't have today, Tovshin Pei Vov. The year didn't exist, and the place wasn't inhabited by Yidden. So each place and each time has a specific mission to accomplish. So he concludes, that there are those mitzvahs and those people that you fulfilled that piece of the mitzvah, that aspect of the mitzvah in a previous Google. And so we're coming now towards the end of the whole process, that all the neshamas that came out of Mitzrayim, the 600,000 neshamas that came out of Mitzrayim when the neshamas kloliim, each of those are broken up into 600,000 sparks and so on, and it goes on. And when everyone has fulfilled their mission, Mashiach is going to come. We will have imbued the world, every aspect of the world, and in time and place with Kedusha, with Elokus, and Mashiach will come. And so some mitzvahs have been done in the past, and we're finishing off in the Iksa of the Mashiach. So, and Lahayer, Shetariyag Harikineged Evarim Vegidim, and Gam came b'chol adoros. And so that the Tariyag mitzvahs is 248 positives, 365 negatives, and these correspond to the 248 as the Gemara counts the limbs of a person, 248, and sinews and veins of the person are the 365, which is the physical makeup of how we are. And so in every generation you have this aspect too. So sometimes you have the ability to actually fulfill the mitzvah. Other times it can be in a spiritual sense. So here we're saying that in this Maimon is bringing out what's the spiritual content. So it actually becomes a mitzvah. It is a mitzvah. The spiritual content is as active as it was in the actual sense before. And so the mitzvah is to, we're saying that this mitzvah is for tzaddikim, to conquer the 7 mitzvahs. However, it's an active, ongoing mitzvah too spiritually. So how is it possible for us to work with the mitzvahs, which is really a voice of tzaddikim? So there's some way that we can actually work with this as well, which will continue the next year.